Okay, hi everybody. Good morning and welcome to um, um, today's virtual JuCE event. I see that many of the people who are on the call today have never attended a virtual JuCE event. So if this is your first time attending a JuCE event that is online, that's what I mean by virtual, then please just indicate in the chat and say it's my first time. I think I know all the students that are here today, but I think there are some of you as well who are here who have been in some of our online events. Um, but if it's your first time, just indicate. Um, but thank you for joining. How we have this event is that we usually start by, asking people to introduce themselves and their schools. So if you want, you can write your name and the name of your school. I think many of you know each other anyway, but it's nice to, again, just, get to know what school you're from, what school you're representing. I'm sorry, I have a bit of a sore throat. So my voice might be a bit weird, and I might be coughing a bit, but it's no worries. You guys should know me. My name is Ada, and I'm the founder of JuCE, and I'm going to be speaking, giving the opening remarks today. So basically, just letting you know why we do this thing that we do. We actually did not get a chance to do this introduction at the bootcamp. The reason why we're here, the reason why JuCE exists is to help you as a student answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm pretty sure that many of you get this question like a lot, either from your family or like a teacher or, from even us at JuCE, what do you want to be when you grow up? And many times there's not a lot of support to help you answer this question. Sometimes you don't know what courses exist, what careers exist, what jobs exist. Maybe the jobs law, medicine, tech. Maybe you think, oh, I don't even like these courses. And sometimes you don't know what you want to do. That's why we have our online programs to expose you to so many career paths. Just to ask a question, right? Um, because we're a small group, I'm going to um, because we're a small group, I'm going to ask that everybody unmute themselves. Let me see if I can unmute. Has anybody on this call before heard about operations and e-commerce, right? Have you heard about the course or the career operations and e-commerce? If you have, like, you can speak up and say, yes, I have. If you have not, you can say no. Just quickly.
I have heard of e-commerce before.
Okay. As a career?
More like the subject in school. Like
Okay. Okay. Um, Deborah Mokbo, have you heard about e-commerce?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anieta, have you heard about e-commerce and
No, ma'am.
operations? Okay. Mokbo, have you heard about it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So this is a very interesting career path. In fact, operations, there is no business, no matter what you do, that does not require operations. Even if you work in a hospital, there are people who ensure that the operations of the hospital, so you have the doctors who treat, but who decides, who is on schedule, what doctors are going to be in the hospital at what time, what nurses, the rotations, the how many packets of syringes or like how many packets of medications to buy, who decides like, oh, the hospital is at full capacity, do we need more hospital beds, all of that are operational considerations. So I always say about these calls, I think sometimes students will find the they'll see the topic and say, this one does not really relate to me. I want to be in the sciences, so I don't care. Operations is not my business. But what you find is that the way the careers of the world are built today, there are so many interconnections and so many interrelationships. And what you want to do is you might think, excuse me, you might think, oh, I want a career in the sciences, but by joining some of these like presentations and listening to some of these career spotlights, what you'll find is, oh, there is this thing in this industry, which is still in the sciences, but I like this better, right? So that's the idea of what we do, why we have this. We want to expose you to as many career paths as possible. Number two, if for today you listen to Daniel, you really enjoy you really enjoy what he has said, and you're like, you know what, I think I want a career in this field, then the next part of it is a career mentorship where we connect you to a Daniel or somebody in the operations world, somebody in the e-commerce world. And what they will then do is to guide you, okay, what subjects should you pick in school? One of the students on this call as well connected with me earlier this week to say, these are the courses I want to pick as I enter into SS3. What do you think of it? Can I get your feedback? And this is a student that I already know what course she wants to study. So I'm like, okay, these courses are good. So sometimes you don't know, depending on, for example, if you want to study e-commerce or if you want to have a career in operations, you don't know, oh, should I pick this subject or that subject? What university can I go to? How can I apply? All of that. That's what JuCE does. We give you career mentorship. We connect you either to somebody within JuCE or we find you a mentor doing what you want to do to support you. And then, of course, last but not the least, one of the most important things that we do is uni preparation programs. I think this is one of the most important things, in my opinion, because many times secondary school students, you don't start preparing for university till you're in SS2, many people in SS3. And honestly, by that time, especially if you're seeking opportunities outside of the country, it's a bit late. So what we want to do at JuCE is to start bringing that mentality where from when you're in JSS2, JSS3, you're already planning for what you want what university you want to study, and what type of career you want to have. It doesn't mean you have to pick already, but it's just opening up your mind. For example, as part of our uni preparation, um, we have talks on how to research for universities, how to apply for universities, especially those outside of the country. It's a completely different mechanism from how we apply when we're in Nigeria, right? So how to apply for scholarships, how to look for scholarships, and all of that. So excuse me, I'm sorry. So these are the things we do. Some of you were at the JuCE boot camp, so that's another thing we do. It's part of our exposure, exposing you to skills and to things that we believe that are important that you would need. So that's the need for JuCE. That's why we're here. Our vision is to see you think about your career in a very purposeful way. We don't want you to stumble into it because Jam gave me the course, or oh, I did not know what to do. I graduated from uni, I did not find a job, so now I'm selling wigs. Nothing wrong with selling wigs if that's what you want to do. But let it not be because you couldn't find your way into where you want to be. Okay, so that's why we're here. Um, and how do you come in? Like I said, we do this program every 2 weeks. So after today's program, the next time we're going to have this program is going to be 2 weeks' time. If you're a student here, connect another student to JuCE. That's the best way you can actually participate in this. Connect another student here to JuCE. Connect your friends at school. Let them know. Let them know about what we do at JuCE, why it's important, the value you're finding from JuCE. Um, Connect with us on our social media. Our IG especially is the most active, so connect with us. Sometimes you'll see some of the programs that we have coming up, or you see some of the content that we've created, and you can just engage. If you're an adult here, for example, Daniel, you can also become a member of JuCE and support our work in a more regular basis, or you can become a mentor to the students, or you can become a sponsor. If you own a company here or you work in a company here, you can become a career partner. So that means, for example, give a 2 week, 3 week, 1 month internship to a student here on the call. That's something we're going to be working on doing a lot from 2026. So you want to, first of all, to get an internship, you want, first of all, attend our sessions, be active, but then you want to also connect with us for mentorship so that we can say, okay, based on this, we think you should do this internship. But that's something else to discuss towards the end of the year and early next year. So I'm not going to waste too much time. Those are the opening remarks. I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker, Daniel, if it's okay to switch on your camera now. Daniel Isabota. Daniel is going to be speaking for 30, 40 minutes or a bit less, depending on how he feels about it. And Then while Daniel is speaking, number one, my rules remain. If he asks a question, please don't be shy, respond to him, engage. Number two, if you have a question while he's speaking, you can drop it in the chat or you can wait because at the end of the conversation, he's going to take Q&As, answer questions. The one rule at JuCE is that, well, there are many rules, but the one rule for today is that there's no stupid question. So if you have a question that you think, I don't know about this, maybe people will laugh, nobody cares. I promise you, when we leave here, nobody cares, nobody remembers. So please ask your question, don't be shy. And yes, so that's it for today. Daniel, I'm going to give you the opportunity to share your screen. Can you share your screen? Can you try to see if you can share your screen?
Okay, hi. Can you please confirm you can hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. You might need to like speak up a bit, but I can hear you.
Okay. I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay, and I can stop sharing. Rocky Bat, it's nice to see you. How are you? It's nice to see you again. I hope you're well. Okay. Wow, why did you get shy? Don't be shy. It's nice to see you.
Sorry, just a second, please.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so while Daniel is setting up, who can guess what e-commerce is all about? I already showed you a bit about operations, but who can guess? Who can tell me something so that when he's speaking, he can confirm whether you were right or wrong. Christopher, you said you had heard about e-commerce. Can you tell me what you think e-commerce is about?
All right. E-commerce has to do with sales transaction online, the way you sell goods online, either through an app or an online medium.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Um, does any other person want to help? Ozioma, are you on this call? Ozioma, you better say something. What's e-commerce? What do you think e-commerce is about? Ozioma, you're not allowed to not talk, oh, because if you don't talk, did she disappear from the call? She ran away from the call. Okay. Rocky Bad, do you want to help me? What do you think e-commerce is about? You can try. Like I said, there's no stupid answer. So whatever you say, if you're not correct, Daniel will correct. Okay. Even I might not know properly. So it's up to you. Okay. What do you think?
E-commerce is the process over the internet.
Is the process of what?
Buying and selling goods over the internet.
Okay. Okay. See? So you know what it's about. Okay.
Sorry to cut you short. Can you see my screen, please?
We can see.
Perfect. All right. So let me
Okay.
know when I can go
Yeah,
ahead.
you can go ahead. I
Yes,
was just waiting.
All right.
Speaking. Was
Let's
somebody
wait.
speaking? Okay. So we're going to hand over to Daniel. Um, so that he can continue. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you again. I would like all the students to please unmute and just tell us your name, even though I can see your name, just so each person can get in the groove of what we're about to discuss. So you can please unmute one at a time and just introduce yourself so we can go on.
Hello, good morning. My name is Debbie.
Okay, hi Debbie. Next person.
Good morning, sir. My name is Victor.
Okay, hello Victor. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Christopher.
Hi, Christopher. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Anissa.
Hi, Anita. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Akiba.
Hi, Rocky Butts. Next person.
Good morning. My name is Mopo Salaunwa.
Okay, hi. Next person.
Osioma, unmute yourself. You just unmuted and we did not hear you, so unmute again.
Hello, good morning. My name is Ozioma.
Hi, Uzioma. Is there anyone left?
I'm not sure who Oluwaseun Taiwo is. I'm not sure if it's a student, but I'm asking to unmute. Is that Sheung from the boot camp?
Yeah.
Oh, Sheung, hi. Sorry. Oh, yeah, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean.
Okay, hi, Sheung. Is that all?
Yes, I think that's
Fantastic. Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Ada, and the JuCE team for this opportunity to speak to the children once again. Please confirm that you can hear me clearly.
I can
All
hear.
right. All right, fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about operations management, right? Ada was asking previously if anyone knows what e-commerce is, and a few people said they've not heard of e-commerce before. But I can tell you that you know e-commerce, you didn't just know that that was e-commerce. So as somebody had answered, e-commerce is buying and selling over the internet. That is entirely what e-commerce is. So the E before the commerce would mean electronic commerce, right? So the way you go to maybe your street to buy something, that one is in person. So that is just commerce, right? So you went to buy suya from the person selling suya, you went to buy meat, you went to buy tomatoes, that is commerce. What makes it e-commerce is that it is done over the internet, right? So this is our table of contents, curiosity, what operations management is, the pillars of operations management, a career path, and do you need a degree to be an operations manager, and a few questions that will be answered. So the first is my story. My story has been an interesting one, I would say. In secondary school, I went to Unique Heights Junior and Senior High School. The school was owned by a family member who was very big on academic excellence. The type of person who, at the time, if I came third in class, would probably like drag my ear and say, "Why did you come? Why did you come third? Because you could have been first and all of that." So already that kind of built me to be big on excellence, you know. So I was in the science class at the time, and then the decision came in, as in every science class, okay, do you want to do technical drawing or do you want to do agric education? And I chose agric education, right? So I added agric to my sciences, and then I had intended to read chemical engineering, but on getting to FUTA, that was my university, Federal University of Technology, Akure, I was given forestry and wood technology, which has some elements of chemistry. I don't know the reason why I was not given chemical engineering. It was not stated to say, well, maybe you didn't meet the cutoff and all of that. But I got forestry and wood technology in FUTA, which I studied for 5 years and then graduated. So that whole process was quite challenging being in school, as an undergraduate. And you know how you can feel when you are given a course that you did not directly apply to, right? But I knew that I was there and I had to make a difference. I had to perform optimally because I am there already. There's nothing I can do than to just excel and do the best that I can. And I was able to do that by God's grace as well. I finished top of my department and it was good to get the applause, from family, from lecturers, and all that stuff. Now, my career journey. So, my career journey started in a very informal way. All right. By informal, I mean that it was not a case of me applying for a job. I knew that I needed a job, but at the time, I didn't know how to go about it. All right. And just for me to add, I started working as an undergraduate. So it was not when I finished school and everything that I now said, oh, I finished school, where can I work? As an undergraduate, it was during the COVID era, that COVID and strike period. I was thinking, oh, what can I do? What can I do? We had an extended period to stay at home. So it was a long time. I had to come up with something, right? So at the time, I had just made a new friend. So we're talking one day, and she just mentioned casually that, oh, Food City is hiring. All right. And she knew the CEO. They had a personal relationship at the time. So I thought, that's interesting. What are they hiring? What position are they looking to fill? Right. And it turns out they wanted to fill the position of an inventory officer. For those who don't know what an inventory officer is, that's typically a person who just, would take stock count to ensure that there are no discrepancies. By discrepancies, I mean that if you say that you received 10 items and the record shows that only 4 has been sold, then we should have 6 in stock. That makes sense, right? So that's what I mean by discrepancy. Someone who ensures that what you say you have, you actually have. All right. So I started as an inventory officer. And then after a few years, upon my graduation from school, I was then promoted to an operations manager, which we're going to discuss today. And then I've worked in that role for a few years, and I've seen that role pivot into e-commerce management, which I currently do. But for today's discourse, I will focus majorly on operations management because that is the one that I believe will resonate with almost everybody here. All right, so that's it about my story. Next slide. So now what is operations management? In very simple terms, operations management is the handling of day-to-day business functions in a manner that is efficient and maximizes profitability. So think of it this way. You know how you are as a human being. There are many systems in your body coming together to make you function properly. There are many organs in your body, right? So you have your skin, you have your eyes, you have your ears, your sense of hearing, your sense of smell. All of that are different, distinct functions that are being coordinated by something. So that is exactly what operations management is. You can have different functions in an organization, or some people, they are maybe the sales team, right? So they handle sales. Some people, you can say this is a marketing team. You can say this is a content team. So all those teams are being galvanized by something, and that is what operations is, to ensure that there is synergy, there is a seamless connection, there is a synchrony between these different teams. That is exactly what operations management is, in a way that is efficient and maximizes profitability. So in plain terms, day-to-day operations, day-to-day functions, how are these teams meeting the company's goals? Because every company that is set out has goals, and profitability is just one of the goals. So based on the goals of your organization, how are you achieving these goals? How are you coordinating all teams to work towards that common goal? That is exactly what operations management is. Again, if you have any questions, there will be a question and answer session at the end. So you can just note down your questions so you don't forget, and I will be glad to answer your questions. So we have some pillars of operations management. In many materials, it's called the 5 Ps of operations management. Number 1 is planning. So in planning, what do? Planning involves forecasting. What do I mean by forecasting? If you've seen the news, you might have seen something like a weather forecast. So a forecast would mean a prediction. And to predict, you need some information, which we'll call data. So you are predicting based on history. For instance, if you are selling something, you are selling 5 items. You have exercise books. You have color red, color blue, color yellow, color orange, and color purple that you sell. And from your data, you see that it's like people tend to like this color blue more than other colors. All right. So you can then predict that if I bring in more, the next time I want to purchase from my supplier, perhaps I should request for more color blue. Because it seems like that is what people are attracted to. So that is just a layman explanation of what forecasting is. You have data that you have checked either from your business or from whatever it is. And then you can say, based on this data, I can tell that if we bring in more color blue exercise books, it will perform better than the other colors because it has been performing better than the other colors for the last 3 months. That makes sense, right? So that is basically what planning is. Now, when we talk about process talks about the steps or the strategy you want to deploy to achieve this common goal. So what do you want to do? What steps do you want to take? Do you want to introduce some sort of incentive? So things like employee of the year to encourage people. Do you want to initiate some customer retention programs? If you go to certain supermarkets to buy something, there's something they call a loyalty card. Many of you might have heard about it. So there's some loyalty programs. Okay, this person seems to buy a lot. So we initiate some sort of discount for you to say, okay, 5% off your next order, 10% off your next order. All of that is towards a goal, right? So that is what process is about. The next is people. People talks about the staff, the manpower. So the staff of each department, like I said, so if it's an inventory department, if it's a sales department, if it's a marketing department, how are you able to coordinate all these people in such a way that they deliver optimally and are motivated? Because at the end of the day, the people are the real resource, not even the product. If the people who are running the company are not motivated, there is no way you are going to achieve your company's objective. All right, so the people need to be satisfied. The people need to be one with the vision of the company. Okay, so that talks about people. Now, possessions talks about your facility, your products. How are these products being produced? That is, if you are into production. Or how are these products being managed if you are into retailing? Retailing is that you are not producing the items. You get from a supplier and then sell at your price. That is what retailing is. All right. So how do you manage your locations? Where are your items stored? How are they stored? And all of that is under possessions. The last is profits, like I said, which is one of the goals of every organization, profitability. How are we able to make profits? I will not assume that you know what profit is. All right. So to make profits, for instance, if I am a retailer, I just explained what retailing is. That is, to be a retailer, I'm not the one producing the item. I just go to those producing to say, oh, I want to buy 1,000 of these items from you and then sell at my own price. I am a retailer. All right. So as a retailer, maybe I go and buy 1,000 items. And the unit price, by unit price, I mean the cost of one of those items is 2,000 naira. That's the cost price, right? Remember that I'm buying 1,000, but the cost of one is 2,000 naira. If I now decide to sell at 4,000 naira, it means my profit is my selling price of 4,000 naira minus the cost price of 2,000 naira. So that gives me a margin of 2,000 naira. So 2,000 is my profit. All right. So profit is your selling price minus the cost price. That's simple enough to understand, right? So that's profit. Now, this chart by the side just talks about different areas of operations management, which are still tied to these 5 Ps that I just mentioned: planning, process, people, possessions, and profit. So if you look at the chart, you see that the number 1 there is product design and development. Now, this would only be applicable if you are producing the items. If you are just a retailer, you are not doing so much of product design and development because the products have been developed. You are just reselling, right? So product design and development is if you want to go into manufacturing. The company I work with now, Food City, for instance, we are doing manufacturing. So something like product design and development will concern us. Is something we need to take into account, right? Number 2 talks about planning and management of manufacturing facilities. I'm just reading what is in the chat. We've already talked about planning and management of facilities, right? Number 3 is talking about purchasing and procurement. This purchasing and procurement is two parts. If you are into manufacturing, what you are procuring or purchasing are the raw materials. But if you are just into retailing, what you are procuring or purchasing is the finished product. I'm sure you must have learned something about raw materials, semi-finished products, and finished products, right? So it depends on whether you are branching straight into production or manufacturing, or you are branching into retailing, right? So number 4 is forecasting, which I had explained earlier. The forecasting is what you can call a prediction, a calculated prediction. I have data for the last 3 months. This particular product has been selling more than the others. So maybe for the next 3 months, I should bring more of this one. That's forecasting. 5 is capacity planning. Capacity planning talks about the resources you have available. So is it the material resources? Is it the human resources? How do you want to work them together to achieve this goal, right? Number 6 is your inventory management. So inventory management talks about your stock. How? By stock, I mean your products, right? So your products, how are they being stored? What is your method of stock counting? What is your method of stock reconciliation? What I mean by stock reconciliation is this, like the example I gave earlier. If you say that you received 10 of an item and you've sold just 4, you should have 6 left, right? But if you are now counting and instead of 6, you are now seeing 4 left, then you now need to reconcile. By reconcile is to bring out the records. Okay, was there any sale that was not accounted for? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right. So was there any sale that was not recorded, or was it stolen? Did anything happen? That's what I mean by reconciliation. It just means to pull out the records and say, okay, we're supposed to have 6 here. How come we have 4? And try and reconcile the information. So that's what I mean by stock reconciliation. So number 7 is quality control. Quality control just means checking that the products are up to the standard. All right. So if you're into, let's say it's shoes, for instance, there is a way the shoes are supposed to look. So if you receive a shipment as a retailer and you see that it's like some of them are bent, some of the shoes are bent, some of them, the sole of the shoe is already removing, it's being disconnected, then you can't sell that to a customer. So as you are doing stock counts, you are equally doing quality control. It just means that you are removing items that are defective. Because with most shipments, 1 or 2 will have a few problems, maybe because of how it was shipped or how it was received at the port, how it was transported, there will be an issue. So quality control just means that you need to ensure that the stock that you have with you are all good stock that can be sold to a customer without any complaints, right? And then number 8 talks about delivery to customers. So that's the end products. After you have received your products, you have put it online, you have done this, you have done that, you have done that. How do you then deliver to the customer? What's your delivery system? Are you going to be using a dispatch bike, depending on the size of the item? Because it's not everything that the dispatch can carry. All right. If you are selling electronics, for instance, you can't use dispatch to deliver fridge or generator, right? So what means of transport do I want to use? How will I factor that into my pricing? Or do I want to outsource the delivery? So outsource means that do I want to give that responsibility of delivery to another person? That's what it means to outsource, right? So we can go on to the next slide now. So what skills do you need to be an operations manager? These are not all the skills, but these are the ones that I think are major skills, right? Number 1 is strategic thinking and planning. Strategic thinking and planning. I've talked about planning a lot, so you can know how important it is to plan, because planning is the foundation for the success. How do you have a goal if you are not planning? All right, so you should be a strategic thinker, critical thinking, deep thinking. And the thinking is not just baseless thinking. You should be able to think based on the data that you have and then forecast. If I say forecast, now I don't need to explain what forecast is because I've explained severally. So I can just say forecast. So you should be able to forecast. You should be able to think strategically. Okay, what do we need to do? It seems like from the data that we have over the last 1 year, 75% of our sales have been coming from the West. What can we do to get in more sales from the North or from the East or from South so that we can expand? Those are the things I'm talking about. Next is effective communication. Communication is very important because you are working as, remember the analogy I gave about your body, right? The different organs in your body that are working together. The system that is controlling those organs so that they can work together is very important. So in operations, you are intermeddling between different departments of an organization. That means that you should be clear in your communication. You should be clear in your communication because this is somebody from marketing that you're speaking to. This is somebody from inventory you're speaking to. This is somebody from a partnerships team that you're speaking to. There should be uniformity in understanding, meaning what you're communicating. Somebody from inventory should be able to understand. Somebody from marketing should be able to understand in his own terms. Somebody from whatever team you have should be able to understand. 3 is technical proficiency. All right. So we are talking about softwares like your Microsoft Office, specifically Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, especially Microsoft Excel. I would advise that at this stage, you should be at least intermediate level in Microsoft Excel. It is very, very important. Not just for operations management, but for most jobs out there, you are going to be working with a lot of Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. And there are many resources online where you can learn these things for free. If you do not have a laptop, you can use the laptop of a family member. All right. But make sure that you pay attention to Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. You will not know everything there is to know because it is wide, but you must know the basics. You must know the basics. You must know how to use it. It's very important. This is not just for operations management, right? Very, very important. And then other softwares based on what your organization is using. For us in Food City, we use inflow inventory, right, to manage our inventory. If you are working in an organization, they might be using another software that is not inflow. So that's flexibility to learn what is being used has to be there. So basic computer skills. I'm saying basic because you should be able to use a computer without assistance. That's what I mean. Then you can grow from there. So don't say, because I said basic, it doesn't mean you must stop at basic and say, oh, okay, I can type a document. That's all. No. So the foundation is basic computer skills, but then it starts to grow from basic to intermediate to advanced, and then you cannot become an expert, right? All of these things take time, but it takes commitment. Next is leadership. So in operations management, you need to be a leader. And being a leader means managing people and managing resources. You're managing people, you're managing resources, right? And the last one is decision making. Decision making, very important as well. Decision making is closely tied to strategic thinking and planning. Closely tied to strategic thinking and planning, because after you think and after you plan, you have to make a decision. You know, it might look simple that okay, decision making looks, I mean, I make decisions every other day. Why is it a skill? As you grow up the career ladder, you start to see how powerful decisions are, especially when you have people connected to those decisions. There are certain decisions I make as an individual that are not tied to anybody. For instance, a decision on whether to eat rice or beans does not affect anybody, it affects just me. So whatever I choose, I will bear the consequences. But if you are leading, let's say a team of 15 people, you can't just decide and say, okay, this is what will happen. 15 different people who have probably different views on life, who have different working conditions. Oh, the office is in VI, somebody is living in Mowe, somebody is living in Ikorodu, somebody is living in Yaba. And then you say, maybe we must all get here 6 a.m. There are people who will need to work harder than the others to achieve that 6 a.m. timeline. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So decision making is sensitive, and you must take into consideration everybody who that decision is going to affect. All right. So these are basic skills of an operations manager. Now, do you need a degree, like a university degree, to be an operations manager? No, you do not. But you will need experience, because off the bat, if I'm to be honest with you, you will not just become an operations manager in one day. Most people who are operations managers grew into the role. So perhaps you were working in a department before. Like for me, based on the story that I told you, I started off as an inventory officer, right? So from inventory, I then grew into operations. It is in rare cases that someone without work experience at all will just be given the role of operations. It's in rare cases. Maybe it's your family that owns the organization, right? Yeah. Even if that were the case, I don't think they would just do that without some form of training, right? Because at the end of the day, they want profitability. And if you are not experienced, you don't know how it works, the company will be losing. All right. So you don't need a university degree, but you need training. And there are many professional courses you can take. Many. From Lagos Business School, from even little places like Coursera, Udemy, there are many courses you can take on operations management. But I think that when it comes to operations management, experiential knowledge is better than theoretical knowledge. What do I mean by that? There's only so much you can know by reading and doing a course. When you start working in a business or in an organization and you see how the business is being run from day to day, that knowledge is not something you can learn from reading a book or from doing a course. So if you want to learn, you will need to apply yourself to it. Apply yourself to it. And don't just bank on, oh, I will read and I will know it. Different businesses have models that they follow. Not all businesses operate the same way. Yes, they all want to make profits, but their manner of operation differs from company to company, right? So apply yourself, get as much knowledge as you can get, and you're on your way to being an operations manager. Now, I just thought to add this as I round off. These are just some personal tips that I'll give you for development. So your personal development, because I'm speaking to teenagers, right? You are still in your educational journey. You are not yet in the job market. You'll be soon, but just some tips to let you improve your personal development, right? So the first tip I would give you is this: for your personal development, how do you become a better person? Number one is master communication. Master communication. And communication is not just in the speaking or what is being said. The goal of communication is to be understood. All right, it's understanding. That is the end point of communication. When I say master communication, a psychologist did a study some years ago. His name is Merabian. And from that, he discovered that verbal communication, as we know it, that is speaking in words, accounts for only 7% of communication. So what you say accounts for 7% of communication. Then how you say it, which is tone, accounts for 38% of that communication. And then body language, or what you call non-verbal communication, accounts for 55%. So what you say is the least important thing in communication. Your body language and how you say it is more important. So when you come into the workforce, you can say something that is correct, but you can be punished, in quotes, for what you said. Not because it was wrong, but because of how you said it and the expressions that followed. All right, so master the art of communication. Not everything should be said, especially in a formal setting. There are things you should not say. There are things that should be said with wisdom. And how do you apply that wisdom is in how you say it and the expressions that follow. For instance, if you're speaking to your boss and your boss says, oh, I think we should do this, this, and this, and this, and you have a contrary opinion, there is a way to present that opinion. And you can say, oh, sir, this is what I think. Let us do it this way, this way, this way, and this way. If your boss should now insist on his own way and say, no, let's do my own, and that way fails, it's easy to just say, I told you so. I told you this thing will not work. No, you still have to respect the rank. So even if you have to communicate that, oh, this way would have been better, there is a way to do it. All right, so master the art of communication, not just for workplace, but in school, when speaking to your peers, speaking to superiors, speaking to subordinates. Communication, very, very important. Number 2 would be to read wide. Read wide. By read wide, I don't mean read only academic books. Read books. Okay, books help to expand your mind. They help to expand your mind. So read books, read things that would be thought engaging, that will make you think. So personally, I read a lot of books. I read fiction, I read African literature, so books by people like Chimamanda, Sefi Atta. It's not connected to my career, right? But it's not just career. As a person, personally, you need to read. You need to read. So most people who you see and you admire the way they speak, this person speaks so well, this person knows how to communicate his thoughts properly. It's reading. It's reading. It's reading. It's from reading. It's from reading. So read wide, read wide, read wide. Next is competence and character. For your personal development, develop competence. This is so important. So important. You must be competent. You must be competent. If there's anybody who doesn't know what it means to be competent in layman's English or in pidgin English, if they say somebody sabi, you know what it means? That this person knows his work, he knows his onions. That is what I mean by competence. So strive to be competent. It is so important. I know, being in Nigeria, there are people who have what you can call a head start. All right. And what I mean by that is perhaps because of their family pedigree, the family they were born into, their access to education, access to opportunities that you may not have. Competence will become your equalizer. It is what will level the playing field between those who seem to have an advantage over you. So strive to be competent. The last time I checked, I think according to the Nigerian Association for Neurological Surgeons, there are only about 126 neurosurgeons in Nigeria, serving a population of about 200 million. Does anybody want to try? Who is a neurosurgeon? What does a neurosurgeon do? You can just unmute your mic and speak.
These are doctors who specialize in the brain function.
Who spoke? Right? Was that Christopher?
In the brain, with the brain. Their specialty is with the brain.
Okay. You can mute yourself now. Okay, thank you. You got it. That's a great try. And it's 50% of the answer, right? So a neurosurgeon is not just for the brain. I don't know if it was in secondary school or in primary school. No, it's probably secondary school, right? Junior secondary school, where we're taught central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, right? So your central nervous system is made up of your brain and your spinal cord. Your peripheral nervous system is made up of every other system outside your brain and your spinal cord. All right. So neurosurgeons deal with the central nervous system. So it's not just the brain, it's the brain and the spinal cord. So that's why I said it's a great try, but it's 50%. So the point is there are 126 of these type of surgeons in Nigeria, right? This is speaking on my point on competence. When you are a neurosurgeon in this country and you're just 126 for a population of about 200 million, a person who needs your service will not be asking you what your state of origin is. A person who needs your service will not be asking you what is your religion. So all of these things that you would have considered prejudices is irrelevant because you are competent. They need you. It doesn't matter that, so you're not from my state, you can't treat me. No, there are only 126 of us. All right, so even though people can be biased, we live in the world of men. People might want to favor people from a certain tribe, favor people from a certain state, favor people of a certain nationality. I'm telling you that competence becomes that equalizer for you. If you were to travel by air You don't ask the pilots if he's a Christian or a Muslim or is an atheist or whatever he is. The fact that he was given the access to fly this plane means he has the capacity to take you up and bring you down safely. Whether he's from your state or your village is not important. All right, so competence is what will veto the biases of men. Next is character. So I said competence and character. They go hand in hand. So as competent as you want to be, ensure that your character is great. Because there are people who were very competent, but there's only so much that people can do when your character is not great. They would rather work with somebody else who they can train to become competent, who has a great character, than somebody who is competent and has no character at all. So be a good person, be a kind person to your peers, to your subordinates, to your superiors. Be friendly, be helpful to people in need. Just try to be a great person overall. All right. And next is relationships. That's the last point I'm talking about for personal development. Relationships. Leverage on relationships is what some people will call network. All right. And I told you that my job, it was not because I applied, it was based on relationships. I had a friend who told me about it. This was not an application. I was literally the only person who was interviewed for the role. All right, so leverage on relationships. And this doesn't mean, only make friends with people who you think can help you. That doesn't make sense, okay? What I'm saying is that the relationships in your life, just be a good person. It still comes back to my character point, because there are some opportunities that I hear now, and there are people who would come to my mind first before maybe posting it out there. There are times that we've had to hire, and the information comes to me. I then look around, okay, I'll say, okay, Daniel, is there anybody you can recommend? And there are people that I know I can recommend. Why? Just because I know that they are great people generally, and they will be able to do the job, right? So relationships are an easy way to scale up, very easy way to scale up, right? So that's for personal development. Now, from everything I've said about e-commerce, certain tips that I'll give you as well for business development. Just to reiterate, e-commerce is buying and selling on the internet, full stop, right? Every other thing is just an addition, but that is the core definition of e-commerce, all right? So some tips I would give you, if you were to start a business, some things that you should know, something that you should know about starting a business. Number one that I would say is prioritize customer service. Many of you will start businesses in the near future. Perhaps some of you are even in businesses already, who knows? Prioritize customer service. Let me tell you, customer service is more important than you think. It's more important than you think. It has been said that people may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So one of the reasons why Food City is where it is today is that if you sample 10 of our customers and you ask them what they like the most about Food City, 8 to 9 out of 10 of those people will tell you it is the excellent customer service. Very, very important. So if you have to start a business, you have to start an e-commerce business, think customer service. It's not just, profit, I must make money. To most of you, the idea of a business might just be a game of numbers. I'm either making profits or I'm making loss. But when you think customer service, there are certain losses that account for profits. What do I mean by that? There are some losses that you will take. That means you lost money, but you retain the customer. That's a profit. So don't just think money, think the people. You can't have a business without the people. All right. And I know, yes, there are extremes where some customers are honestly difficult to work with, but remain civil. By being civil, the meaning of being civil is a professional way of behaving. All right. So when I say be civil, it means maintain your professionality. So even if a customer, because I've seen cases where a customer is literally cursing out a sales rep, using swear words and even flat out curses. In that situation, you are still not allowed to go word for word with the customer to say, oh, if you say I'm a fool, then you two, you're an idiot. No. So you remain civil, you remain professional. All right. So customer service, very, very important. Very important. Next would be have a code of conduct. Have a code of conduct. That is how you want not just the business, but the individuals in the business to operate. You must have a vision, and whoever you are hiring must be willing to adopt that vision as a personal vision. All right. So for us at Full City, there are certain things that we prioritize. We prioritize customer service. We prioritize quick response time. So for us, if you send a message, you should get a response in under 5 minutes. It has become a code. Another code is to be warm to customers because yes, they are coming to exchange money for your products. They need it. That's why they're coming to buy. But at the same time, you shouldn't not position yourself as though you're doing them a favor. It's a fair exchange. All right. And just to talk about my former point on customer service, to link customer service and code of conduct is that if there is a code of conduct on hospitality, if there's a code of conduct on being warm and being friendly, this means that no matter who you are as a person, no matter your preference, no matter your past life, once you come into this organization, you must submit yourself to that code. So even if you were a tout before you join this organization, and once they insult you, your next step is to carry bottle and break somebody's head. The moment you get into this organization, you must submit to that code. You bring yourself under that banner. So every organization would have a code of conduct. So if you have to open a business, make sure there is a code of conduct. A code of conduct. The next thing I want to talk about is that you should be willing to take risks. Take risks. Starting a business is a risk because as much as you think it's easy, oh, I'll just start selling this and people will buy from me. Let me tell you, it doesn't always work like that. There are no guarantees because it's not like people came and said, no, don't worry, let's take an oath. We promise you, once you start this business, you are the only one who will be patronizing. It's not like that. All right, so take risks. You will fail sometimes, it's okay, but you don't remain down after you have failed. People have started businesses who did not work, and it was their fourth business that eventually scaled and became a global conglomerate. So if you say, oh, I started and the first one, it didn't work, perhaps you did something wrong. Perhaps there are other things that affect the business. It's not just about starting a business and then it's becoming, oh, boom, it's everywhere. Okay, so take risks. And when you fail, try again, try again, try again, try again. Next is think quality. Think quality. The quality of your products, the quality of your service has to be top notch. All right, because if you are putting a certain price on a product, what makes it worth that price is the quality. Not just because you want to make money. People have to get their money's worth. All right, so the quality of the product or the quality of the service you're rendering has to justify the amount that is being placed on it. Okay, so think quality. Don't just sell shabby products. That's why previously I talked about quality control. All right, so there is a certain standard. There is a way any shirt that I make must look. There's a way the material must feel. If it's not like that, I won't sell it to you. So I'm thinking quality. All right. And the last thing I'll tell you is leverage and partnerships as well. Leverage and partnerships. Many of you will think, oh, you want to start a business. I mean, I don't have a factory. How do I want to go into production? How do I want to do this? But it is easy to build on other people's infrastructures. What do I mean by that? If you are a software developer now, you are not starting from scratch in the sense that there is already the framework of internet. So whatever you are building as a software or as an application, you are building it on the network of internet that is already existing. All right. So if I want to go into manufacturing, it doesn't mean I now have to start thinking of how to make or how to build a factory from scratch. There are people who have factories. Previously I talked about outsourcing. There are people who have the manpower. There are people who have the raw materials. So if you are able to coordinate all of this to form your own products, you are still a producer. It's not only when you have your own factory, you are the one sourcing the raw materials yourself, that you say, okay, hey, now I'm a producer. No. So you design the model, you give it to those who have the capacity, who have the manpower, who have the resources to make it happen. Leverage and partnerships. For production, for distribution, leverage and partnerships. So that brings me to the end of my talk on operations management. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Thanks so much for the for the presentation. I think while you were speaking, I even had I took some notes and stuff. So thank you very much. Okay, so I always have a question that I ask to every speaker who comes. Bob, you said something during the presentation which I want to ask on behalf of a student. But the original question, which is already in the chat, you kept speaking about data planning, forecasting, and I think you kind of answered it by saying everyone needs a basic knowledge of Excel, even at the stage they are. So would you say that first for operations management has a lot to do with mathematics? And if there's a student who is here now who maybe likes what you're saying, finds it interesting, but does not necessarily find mathematics to be the most exciting thing, would you say that this career is maybe not for them? So that's the question I had in the chat. The second question I have is regarding, many of the students here, like you said, they are not yet in the job market, but, by God's grace, in the next 7 to 10 years, they're going to enter the job market. The world we have today is increasingly automated. There's a lot of AI influence, and there's this fear that AI will take over all the jobs. How do you see this industry surviving AI, or how is it going to change? Because I think some industries might change. How will it change, and how can they position themselves for this type of change? So those are the questions. If any other person has a question, please, you can just raise your hand. We will unmute you so you ask a question, or you can drop it in the chat, whichever one makes you feel most comfortable. But we can maybe go ahead with those first two questions, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. So the first question, talking about someone who perhaps is not good in mathematics, thinking about operations management, I would say that operations management is still for you because it's not entirely mathematical. It's not entirely mathematical. The only aspects of operations management that are mathematical are if you are doing financial analysis or you are doing data analysis. But like I said, if you are using Excel, it is easier to follow through because on Excel, you can easily do calculations. You just need to know how to do so. You are still applying mathematical principles, but not exactly doing mathematics, if that makes sense. So, you are doing addition, you are doing graphs, and all of this is going to be automated in the sense that when you put the information into Excel, you are going to click, I want a graph of this data. So you're not racking your brain to say, I'm plotting this graph manually, as it were. All right, so if you think you don't like mathematics, it still doesn't mean operations management is not for you. This is just an aspect. Like I said, operations management touches every department of an organization. And if you're going to be involved in financial analysis, in data analysis, in supply chain management, you will do a bit of calculations, but nothing to scare you. You're not doing calculus or algebra, right? Just basic computing. Does this balance? Did this not balance? Okay, if these people are going to send us products worth 2.5 million, at what selling price do we need to sell to be able to get a profit margin of 25%? So calculations like that, which you can easily do. And there is the internet. If you Google how to do it, nobody is going to kill you for searching the internet to say, this is how I calculated the profit margin, this is how I did, but then you now have the knowledge. All right, so don't rule yourself out, even if you don't like mathematics. So that's the first question. Second question about AI and how safe it is that I believe that AI has come in as an intervention and it's an assistance to enhance but not to replace human originality. There are many aspects of business and commerce that AI cannot replace. AI can only assist. For instance, the manpower required in inventory management, AI cannot assist it. What AI can assist with is in maintaining your stock. Okay, it is easy to know this is where I place it, this is where it should be, this is how I can better organize it. But AI will not do the heavy lifting for you. These things that are arriving in cartons, these shipments, these transport systems, a lot of things that go into operations and into how businesses run, AI can just assist, but it cannot replace. Because as intelligent as AI is, AI has no emotions. All right. So there are people who want to buy an item and they want to be able to speak to a human being. The warmth, the emotions, the personality that comes with a human being cannot be replaced by AI. So like I said, AI has just come in as an intervention, a welcome development. I mean, use AI the way you can. I use AI, all right, but not to entirely depend on AI. No. AI can just help to provide like a skeletal structure. Then you would then flesh it out to say, no, I want it to be like this. I want it to be like this. I want it to be like this.
Thank you. Victor, I think you have your hand up. If any other person has a question as well, this is time to put your hand up and then we will let you speak. Victor, please.
Well, the question I have is that, while you were speaking, you talked more about leveraging on experiential knowledge than theoretical knowledge. So I just want to ask, how do you gain this experiential knowledge based on the fact that, in Nigeria now, most people won't offer you jobs if you don't have an experience. So how do you gain that experience?
Okay, that's a great question. Is there any other question, or can I answer that and then move to the next question?
Let me just see if there's another question. Any other question? I might assume there are no other questions so that we would take Victor's question and round up. Okay, well, I'll assume there's no other question, but if you have a question, then you can put it in the chat. But yeah, so we can just deal with this.
Okay, so how do you get experiential knowledge in operations management in addition to your theoretical knowledge? I would say that you can maximize interning opportunities, which means that while you are learning, if you do not have all the skills required to be an operations manager, you can choose to intern at a place where you're not exactly being paid, but you're gaining the experience. If that is a route you want to take, you can choose to do that. But if you do not want to do that, another way to get experience would be by documenting your growth. What I mean by that is, as you're on your journey, let people know that, oh, this is what I do. This is what I am doing, right? So if you need my services, I can do this for you. I can do that for you. Because like I said, operations management is a whole lot of things. So if as you are learning, you notice that, oh, I can help you organize how your stock is being kept. I can help you. You're already attending to one area of operations management. You're building experience there, even though they didn't pay you for that. All right. You can tell somebody, okay, just let me think of how you can upscale your business and get back to you. You're working on your strategic thinking. You're working on your planning. As you're learning your Microsoft Excel, you're working on your analysis. Okay, I know how to do this. I know how to do that. So those little things are experiences. By experiences, I don't mean that you must be in a work setting, as it were. All right. But these real life experiences, there are a lot of data online. Most of these companies put out their data for maybe a calendar year or for the last 3 months, and it's downloadable. You can just go online, download one of these data to your Excel and say, okay, if I were the COO, that's Chief Operations Officer of this organization, what would I do? I look at the data and say, okay, they're having this, they're having this, they're having that, they're having that. Right. So that's what I mean by working with real life data and not just learning abstractly and say, oh, I'm now an operations manager. Right. So the experience is not just in a work setting, even though that is appreciated. All right. But experience in learning, experience in a work setting, all of them together. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Daniel, for that. Yeah, Victor, I definitely agree with Daniel. I think one thing I always say is I think sometimes at home, like we wait for a company to advertise an internship. before we will now go and say, let me apply for the internship, right? One thing I did a lot but when I was younger was I would literally just go to a company and just say, oh, can I shadow? I wanted to be a lawyer. Can I shadow the lawyers here? Sometimes they'll tell you, oh, this. Sometimes they'll tell you something else, but you do it for 4, 5, 6 companies. There's somebody there who would love the fact that you showed up and you're willing to learn, and they'll give you the opportunity. So sometimes when we say internships, don't wait till, I think there's that thing they do in university, IT, right? Don't wait till the IT to do that internship. Like literally just go out there. If there's a company next to you and you see they open in the morning, they close in the evening, go in there and see what you can do for them. That's one thing I would for sure say. So very similar to what Daniel has said. I think another thing I'll say is, again, some like what Daniel has said, documenting your experience, because I think many times, again, we're looking to work for Unilever, for Food City, for big companies before we feel like we work. If your parents have a petty, like your parents sell provisions, your mom sells I don't know, moi moi to her fellow teachers. Your parents have a small business they are doing. See how you can get involved in that thing to improve it. Okay. See, ask her, oh, mommy, how much? Okay, how many moi mois do you sell per day? How much does it cost you to make it? Or do you think if you increase the price by this amount? If your mom just knows her profit by her head, how about you create her an Excel sheet where she will know, okay, this is how much I put in, how do you say, this is how much my cost price, like Daniel said, in the month. This is what I'm selling. Sometimes you might even find out that your mom is not making profit. She just thinks she's making profit because there's money entering. But that's you now saying, oh, mommy, I think maybe instead of, maybe we should differentiate the moi moi. So now there'll be very cheap moi moi of 200 naira. Now there'll be the fancy moi moi of 1,000 naira, the one that'll have egg, the one that'll have fish. Try and see. The thing with doing that is it's very low stakes. It's between you and your mom. Do you get? But even more than that, those are real life experiences. And another thing, we're going to by next year do like CV writing. The thing, don't just say your CV, I know how to do operations management. Real life data to say I've increased the value of XYZ business from from whatever to this whatever. The thing we see in statistics is that it doesn't matter if you've done it for a chain company, or you've done it for a food city, or you've done it for a total. The thing is, if you're able to make something move from here to here, people can trust you better. So like Daniel said, when he says documents, please look for even simple things around you. Don't always look for super established companies and stuff. Look for even simple, even within your own self and stuff. I'm pretty sure there are things you're doing that if you're interested in this field, that you can say, oh, this isn't, like I said, there's operations in almost anything you do. So please look for those types of opportunities. And of course, thank you, Daniel, for that thing about Excel. It just came to my mind that we actually need to have somebody teach and explain Excel to secondary school students for next year. So as by God's grace, we'll share the information once we have somebody on board. But I'm going to assume that that's the last question we have. But again, a massive, massive thank you to you, Daniel. This was very, very thorough. This was very well broken down. I'm pretty sure that the students here have gotten a lot of value from it. And yeah, I'm just going to let one student say something that they've learned or something they did not know before. I'm going to put somebody on the spot. Mokbo, could you help me? Could you tell me what you enjoyed and what you learned? Okay. I don't ask Christopher because, Christopher is now a JuCE intern. That's what I'm saying about internships. Christopher approached us after the bootcamp and said, how can I intern within JuCE? And now he's a JuCE intern, so I can always call him. But don't always look far. Sometimes look at what's near to you. So Mokbo, could you help me?
Could I help you with what exactly?
Could you let me
get the
know
question.
what you learned from what Daniel has said? Everything he said today, what have you learned?
Well, I learned how to deal with information, or like as I said earlier, that if like a customer is like angry or something, that you should not be the type to like react, that you should handle the problem reasonably. So you shouldn't always like prove your point. You should be respectful about it.
Okay.
You should be kind and respectful.
Thank you, Mopo. So you learned customer service and stakeholder management, managing people's emotions, managing people you're working with or people who work with you. Okay. Rocky Bats, I'm going to ask you to help me as well. Thank you, Mopo. Rocky Bats, can you tell me as well something you learned from what Daniel has said today? Guys, let's hurry up so that we can leave. We're almost done. So, Rocky Bats. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Rocky Bats. Does someone want to help Rocky Bat? Deborah, help Rocky Bat.
I learned that you don't have to, like you have to learn.
Let me mute Rocky Bat. Okay, continue, Deborah.
Like you have to learn things around you, like ask your mom, like the way you explained, ask your mom about her business, know a lot, and also you have to have good relationship with people, and you should not have relationship with them because of what you make out of them.
Okay, go. Okay. Thank you, Daniel. I think what's actually interesting is two of the learnings are more on the personal development part of your presentation, which I think is, I love that you did that, and I think it's very important. Okay, so we're going to round up now. Thank you everybody for joining. Like I said, please engage with the socials. And if you have, number one, any questions, any course or career or job you want us to have somebody to come talk about, you can reach out to us. We'll find somebody. If you need mentorship or support in any regard, you can reach out to us for that. We're going to resume here 2 weeks from now with another exciting topic. I think it's something to do with research. So anybody thinking of studying, especially research for universities outside the country. I know I was speaking to somebody already about it, but that's something you also really want to be there for. We're going to be talking about, we're going to just do a research workshop. We do it every quarter, so we do it 4 times a year. We just, work through how to research, how to find the course, how to ask, how to use the internet properly to find information, how to even apply. Early next year, we're going to be doing how to write your application essay because that's a huge part. So that's that for today. Once again, thank you so much, Daniel, for coming, for supporting us with your time and your experience and knowledge. And we will, in fact, hopefully be calling on you again soon. And I hope everybody had a great time. Enjoy your Saturday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.